Jack, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Good to see you, bro. Thanks for coming over to Davidson, North Carolina.
Man, I'm stoked. This has been such an incredible experience. You are in the business of creating incredible experiences, but I want to say firsthand thank you, because this has been truly a special day so far with you.
That's my privilege, man. Thank you for being here. Let's have many more burgers and steaks to come, man.
Yeah, I'm in, bro. The only part of the experience I didn't enjoy was you kicking my butt in Little Tykes basketball, but other than that, man, everything else has been good.
Yeah, you don't have a 4-year-old daughter. It's the difference, man. So you don't get the practice like I do.
No, 100%, man. No, but this is good, man. I have a ton of respect for everything that you've done professionally, but one of the best things about this podcast is we get to really unpack people's stories, that lead them and set them up to do the things that they're doing. And I want to talk to you about your professional career and the things that you're doing professionally. But before that, I would love to even bring it back to some of your younger days and maybe hear about your inspiration and hear about kind of what made you who you are and how you've gotten here. So yeah, man, I'd love for you to share with our audience a little bit about your upbringing. I know your father has played a big role in that, but
wow, taking you back to the early days of Blacksburg, Virginia, Doug? Is that what you want?
Take us to the early days, because I love hearing how this stuff builds into where you are now.
No, that's very fair, and I love talking about that. So, it's a blessing more than anything that I learned how to cook from my father, which many who've been following me and know my story are aware of. He had the Texas blood. He was born and raised there, and charcoal grilling was kind of all he knew. So then when he brought that, vibe into Virginia when I was, I think about 6 or 7 years old, then I started paying attention to it when I was 8 or 9 years old and wondering what it was and why is it so good? And he told me. And I just remembered from that age of 9, I was in 3rd grade. I was just like, that's how I always want my food to taste.
That's awesome, man. Now, when you grew up in this environment, obviously your dad kind of led you into this path. What attracted you to barbecuing and grilling? Obviously, I know that. I know that it probably tasted really good. But was there something else about the experience, or maybe the memories or the moments you shared with your dad? Like, what was it that actually drew you in?
It was usually just quality time that he and I had together. He was busy, and as an attorney, it was a stressful career that he had for over 40 years, and just getting some time, whether it was, a weeknight or I would get more time with him on a Sunday, or we'd just get more time to relax and hang. He would always do that for me. It was never no, I can't grill you a steak or I can't grill you a burger. If you want one, I'll have one with you and we'll watch some football, we'll hang out. Obviously I was too young to have a beer at the time, but those are the best times of my life that I can remember. And as we get older, you don't collect things, you collect these memories and these great times that you had, because that's what motivates you more and more each day. I like the guy who taught me to cook, and now I cook for a living.
Wow.
Yeah, there's my motivation. It's not too hard to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful, man. And it's cool to see how those little seeds that are planted, everyone has a different walk of life. They do different things, like you and your lane with cooking and creating these experiences for people.
Oh, it's been a long road.
Yeah, but those seeds that were planted, it's so cool to see how they've matured and how they've grown into now you delivering all these crazy experiences and moments for so many people across the world. So that's a really cool way of just seeing that whole process come full circle.
I really appreciate that. And yeah, this is not something that, years ago, you always hear these people say, years ago, if you'd asked me this, I would have never told you this would happen. I mean, it's really true.
Yeah.
Because, I worked in corporate America for 2 different companies over an 11-year span, and was in college before that. And I didn't know that this was the way it was going to be, but I was blessed to find something that I felt I was good at, or more or less something that people enjoyed that I was involved in. And we made something out of it that fortunately people hadn't seen before. It wasn't a difficult concept, but it was something that I was very lucky that so many people were able to get behind.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to talk about that because even before we started recording, there's evidence of this, all the work that you put in that led up to this moment. This did not happen overnight. You're not cooking for former presidents and celebrities and athletes, but like that's a large body of work and a lot of time you put in. But let's talk about that process to get to this point, because I love more people listening to be inspired and encouraged by that persistence that you had in your craft, while also doing other things to get you to this point. So I'd love to learn more about what those early days looked like as you started to incorporate it while also maybe working your corporate job, and how that kind of took off.
Well, I was lucky I had a wife and a father who really believed in this and stuck with me through the whole process, because it sounded a little crazy. After being in the jobs that I was in, to want to pursue a career for a job that literally did not exist.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, was there someone that you looked up to for inspiration in this kind of field, or were you kind of paving the way in a lot of ways?
It's just as much an entertainment factor as it is barbecue. So I've had many, many influences, cross my mind. Sure. While I've been integrating this entire process. Anyone who's had any kind of positive impact on me has come into my mind and influenced this whole program. So I feel that, of all the cooks out there, the ones who I felt like were the simplest cooks were the ones I could relate to the most, because I'm not a fancy guy. I can't make the fancy food that so many of my amazing friends on social media can. I mean, there's just some really talented people out there. But I knew that if I stuck to what I knew in my heart I was best at, which was steaks and burgers, and some low and slow in there, some barbecue, but it was able to take off into something that wasn't around before.
Yeah.
And so we were able to put people in just a beautiful and immaculate setting with people that they loved and they cared about, eating food that they love, when they're at home. Talk about a chance to be free and something you haven't had before yet won't forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what this was all about from the very beginning. And if I bring a different element into some people's lives, then I feel like I've affected it in a positive way.
Dude, you surely have. I mean, you've made a massive impact on my life and so many others. But how did you like start? Like, what was that first, I guess, opportunity or moment where you're like, okay, this could actually work? Like, how did this actually get off the ground?
Taylor Moton.
Yeah.
Taylor Moton of the Carolina Panthers. Like, I love that man.
Wow.
Like a brother to this day. He was one of the very first who followed me, who supported me on just grilling some backyard food. And he was a rookie for the Panthers at the time.
Such a cool
But I let him know that it didn't go unnoticed by me that a player of the Panthers and maybe one or two more of his teammates were supporting me and following me. And I simply said, dude, if you want to get up and have some steaks or have a nice meal or something before you guys gear up for the season, I'd be glad to throw it down for you to say how much that meant to me.
Wow.
And it was very genuine. It was very simple, and these guys put a lot of trust in some guy they just met on social media to be willing to do that. And lo and behold, we had the best groundbreaking first session ever. And then, I've made more steaks and burgers for Taylor than maybe anybody you can think of. And for that guy to bring his, organization into my world and really support me and stuff, that's where it took off. I mean, he's how I met Christian. He's how I wound up cooking for Coach Rule when he was with the Panthers and when he's in Nebraska. I mean,
yeah,
you got to give credit where credit's due, and I'd say he was the first one who really made a lot of magic happen. And then after that, it was Christian, after I started cooking for him every week. And we just realized very early on that this was way beyond football. It was way beyond barbecue, and we just really clicked on personal levels. Like, they got me, which isn't easy, but they got me pretty early on. So I really loved how smart these guys are, and it's really special what it's all become. But we're all family. We may not be blood related, but they're my brothers. So,
dude, what a cool part that they've played in your story and in your life, and I'm sure vice versa. You've brought them so many powerful experiences. Now, before you started doing this, were you creating content on social media of you doing cooking? And so but it was all personal stuff. And so this was the intersection when you started to branch out and actually do it for others now.
It is. I had done, a couple of Eggtoberfest. I had competed on teams that I was invited on. Some extraordinary, awesome cooks in 2016, 2017. And then 2018, I went to the Sunshine State Egg Fest in Florida, and I did my first demo for 200 people. Followed a couple other amazing barbecue acts, and I did my first one down there, and that was really when it started to take off, was April 2018, and then the Big Green Egg team formed, and they chose me to begin, and they brought in all the other teammates who are just, they live and breathe that barbecue the same way I do. I mean, they know how it makes them feel on the inside when they're grilling. It's kind of like what I say about my favorite band, Fish, which I've told you about. It's like a lot of people just don't get it, but I know how it makes me feel on the inside. And those who love Fish, I know how Fish makes them feel on the inside. That's why they get it too.
Yeah, I get it.
So, and that's what Big Green Egg is all about. And it can create experiences that you did not know were possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super cool to hear that. So you have this moment with these players, and that's kind of your first, I'd say, yes, someone taking a chance on you.
Yeah, it was just a hangout.
Yeah.
It was just a hangout. There was nothing more to it.
Right.
You can't expect so much. I mean, the guys are just rookies. You want to show your appreciation.
Yeah.
I've always felt saying thank you is one thing, but showing appreciation is quite another.
Absolutely. In that moment, though, did you feel like something kind of clicked where I was like, okay?
No, I felt I had 3 new friends, because it was Taylor, it was Alex Arma, it was Chris Manhertz. I mean, you bring some boys over to barbecue and hang out and just have good times. You don't think about the next thing or what's happening. You just think about, damn, I can't wait to see you dudes again. Y'all are great guys. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Didn't know the power of social media about how things take off when you just post a few photos and some stories about you having a good time with these awesome dudes just chilling at your house. But it was an honor.
True.
It was a true honor. And I mean, every single person I've cooked for to this day, it's an honor to cook for them, because they could choose most likely anyone, and they're kind enough to bring me in. So
Yeah, you have some pretty incredible qualities in the sense of your energy is obviously very prevalent. But one thing I also really appreciate about you, and I've noticed this a lot by following your journey, is your level of gratitude that you carry. Anytime you do, cook for someone, I always see you as you're leaving, creating a story, just saying thank you for this opportunity, thank you for bringing me in. And I think there's so much to say about that. And I feel like that's not talked about a ton these days. It's just true gratitude. And it's cool to see how I'm sure that served you so well throughout your career and just building really genuine relationships with people where it takes a transaction out of it, but there's a heart in everything that you do.
there is, again, saying thank you is one of the easiest things to do. That is one of the most felt things that people can say. It's the right thing to do. But if you're genuinely feeling something on the inside that you weren't feeling until they came along, then yeah, you need to express how it truly makes you feel. I am well aware that the Four Seasons could bring in anyone they want to host their barbecue events. And if I didn't know that, I'd be stupid. But yet they've given me 30 chances.
Wow.
And it's been
That's
pretty
amazing,
spectacular. So I couldn't have imagined that. But the people seem to get it. They seem to just get a good time, whether it's higher energy or lower. They're all about just being a part of it, at least for one night, and remembering it. So
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. Now I want to talk to you about the way that you kind of mentioned it earlier, and I kind of want to come back to it, the power of social media. So you're building these genuine relationships with these new friends on the Panthers, and there is some content that's being shared. What did that do to your business, the power of social media in terms of people, I guess, just getting a broader awareness of what you do, or at least what you're capable of doing? How did that kind of shift things in terms of the way this has all grown?
all right, so it's not the answer you're gonna expect, but to be honest, when we started creating the videos in 2017, one thing that all my videos had common, if I was slicing into a steak or a burger, I always had the band Fish playing in the background. And they noticed for, I think, 2 years or so, in all those videos where Fish is playing, they were steak videos, they were food videos, but every single one of those, my first hashtag was Fish.
Oh, man.
So people who were in the Fish community picked up on that, and they started following. They were so amazing. I mean, this is what makes that band so incredible. And I've seen them 48 times, I've told you. It's always a different show. Been seeing them since 2010. these folks, like, I will play a version of Tweezer in the background, and they'll be like, dude, was that the November 17th, 97 Tweezer?
No way.
Some of them will hit it right on the money, and they'll know the exact date that live show was just because they can hear a certain riff or a certain note or a certain drum beat by Fishman that's just different on that segment. And that really broadened the following more than I could imagine, which was great. I still go to shows at the Garden, and people bump into me, and they're like, Jack, what's up, man? I'm like, I don't know you, but that's awesome that you support it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, no one thinks it's crazier than I do. But that really is what expanded it was, I hashtag fish, I was hashtagging steak, barbecue, burgers, everything to bring all of that community together. So we had a food group, and then we had a band group all in one post.
You're bringing it all together.
And it was a great time to be alive because we were jamming fish every day on Instagram.
You've certainly met a lot of incredible people throughout this process, throughout your journey.
I really have.
I'd love to hear maybe a fun story from maybe one or two people that you've been able to have the privilege of cooking for, whether it be a moment where you learned a new lesson or you picked up something from them or just had an awesome experience.
Oh, man. It's hard to narrow it down to one just because there have been so many. I mean, I love my 39th birthday where we did a 15-pound Wagyu tomahawk rack.
Holy smokes.
Up at Christian's house. AD was there, Austin, Paul, the whole squad, and we had a really great time, and that was my birthday, and I wanted to do the cooking, and we rocked out and we did something like that. Those are times that I never forget.
So, one of the things that I guess comes with the territory of the line of work that you do is there are a lot of relationships that are built. And you were such a genuine person. I mean, we walk in the door and you're like, take this, I'll give you this, you can just feel like such a genuineness. But is there any kind of, I guess, advice you could give our audience about the right way to build real relationships? And you can talk about it from a personal standpoint or a business standpoint, because I think there's a lot of overlap, but I would love to learn more about you in terms of the way you approach it.
You can't be selfish. That's all it is. I mean, you can't be the individual who's in it for themselves more than anything. I mean, if you realize that people are smart and they can see, as I say, it doesn't take very long to meet someone and find out if they're real or not.
Yeah.
But the advice I can say is, like, you got to work hard at it and you got to believe in it. And don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You can't let anyone outwork you in your arena and exactly what you do. You can't let anyone do more than you're doing. You do not have to post everything on social media. Most of my work is done off of social media. Like, you guys just see the events, you see the recipes, you see the cooking. You don't see the months of planning that goes into each one of the events with each property. Working with the most amazing chefs, food and beverage directors, public relations directors, marketing directors, general managers, the list goes on and on, to make these possible. It's not easy. It's a lot of fun. But when you have 11 of them going on at once, it can get a little tricky. It's why you got to be very organized.
Yeah, speaking of organization, this is something I really want to pick your brain about because I'm so interested. You're not just showing up to people's houses or, different locations and just cooking. You are bringing a whole show with you. You are a show within yourself, your energy, your enthusiasm. I want to talk to you about the flow of how you actually execute one of these events in terms of how you make sure you're focused and dialed in on the cooking and making sure the meat needs to do what it does while also entertaining. What is your process to attacking these events?
The music factor is, in my opinion, the X factor, because that's what keeps everyone lively and bobbing their head. I plan out the cooks to, they usually go a couple hours, but if I know that I have to go interact with the crowd, and I think I may have told you this, if not, I apologize. I'll put some steaks on the grill, close the lid, and then go interact with the crowd because I know in my head I've got two song links in my head, like the song that's currently playing and then the next one before I need to get back up there and flip those steaks.
Wow.
Then, I got a little bit more time. I can go hang with the DJ, vibe, jump, throw some fire in the sky, whatever you want to do. Go meet a few people in the crowd up in the front, then get back to it. And yeah, it's all about timing with these things. Because I normally am just manning the big green eggs. You know, I can't cook the sides and everything. The corresponding culinary teams do that, and they do an amazing job with it. But they give me the stage. They let me go do my thing with the big green eggs and the DJ and the meats, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The Four Seasons Austin has just got it dialed in. I mean, we've
Really?
done this 3 times with them, and not just because they're the barbecue capital of the world, but because Frank Tosti, the food and beverage director, I truly believe he's the best in the business. Not just a great friend, he just gets this whole program from minute one. They have like a stage built outside at the point of that property, and it was amazing this year. I mean, it was only 60, 65 people, but it was the perfect setting, perfect amount, and the grills were set up perfectly with the DJ. I mean, it was epic.
That's amazing, man. That's super cool. You know, one of the things that we got a chance to speak about before recording, and I'd love to bring this, you know, to our listeners, is your approach to just being professional. And I think the word professional has a weird vibe to it, where when people think of it, or at least the way I think of the word professional, it's someone that's always very serious and very, you know, put together. But I think there's different ways you can be professional. But with your approach, I would love to hear how you're able to you're able to attack professionalism, because we talked a little bit about just how different things can come up, and, you know, even nerves, because that's one of the biggest things. When obviously I'm not a cook, so I think there's a disconnect there, but you're cooking in front of these very successful people, and you don't have a lot of room to, you know, make error. So how do you attack those moments without the nerves or the, you know, external factors that could potentially get in the way?
Well, to do exactly what I do, I'm telling you, you cannot get nervous. You can't have a nervous factor. Like, it has to be turned into excitement.
Yeah.
You know, like I love doing what I'm doing, like, so I don't get nervous. It's a blessing that I feel this way, but I know what I'm going into, and I know that they're going to have a good time one way or another. Now, the professionalism, that actually I got to owe to my dad. You know, he was from Texas. Sure. And then, you know, military school background for a few years. I say sir and ma'am to everybody, even if they don't want me to. I have just always said sir and ma'am to everybody. It's like when I introduce myself, it's like when Frank came in, you know, he knew exactly who I was, but when he came in, I said, "Hey, what's up, buddy? Jack Arnold, how are you?"
I love that.
And that's how I am with everybody. I introduce myself, a firm handshake or hug. I'm like, "Hi, Jack Arnold, how are you?" I just feel like that's a level of professionalism that's so small and so easy that goes a long way. And, you know, knowing who is in charge, and it sure isn't you, wow, goes a long way. So that's it. It's knowing your role. It really is important in this world. Stop always trying to overstep your boundaries. So many people do that. I've always remembered my role. Yeah. It's always my privilege to be here.
Man, I love that. I think people can really take that and apply it to their stuff. Because I know personally that's something that I think is really powerful for me. Even just being super fortunate and blessed to have this podcast and meet all these incredible people through the show. Like, I feel so honored and grateful to sit down with you at your house in Charlotte and do this. Like, I feel like, you know, it's such an honor. So I'm really grateful. But I love your approach to that.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's one of the things I love with my, you know, relationships with the chefs and the F&B directors at Four Seasons. You know, when the events are over, normally we like to all have a drink together and just kind of celebrate that whenever we get the chance. Like Chef Sean Acosta at Four Seasons Napa Valley, a man that I've just grown to love and admire so much. He's a tequila fan like me, so we almost love just cranking out the event and then having a shot right after that. So it's a special thing. It's a special thing, but these are some extraordinary people and the hardest workers you've ever seen in your life. So having my love, yeah, you got that all day, but when you got to respect, it just changes the game altogether.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you as we kind of bring this thing home about the vision you have for where this all goes. Obviously, we're sitting here in January of 2024. You got a whole year ahead of us. I know there's a lot of excitement for some fun things you have planned, but where do you see this going, and what direction would you dream of?
We've already carried this to a level that we didn't know was possible. So I've always been told, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
So I plan to just keep doing what I'm doing because I love this. And as long as people are letting me through their doors and into their hotel lobbies and then into their back sanctuary to throw down and show a way to have a fun night they hadn't seen before, I don't have any intentions of changing. This is what I love doing. This is a dream job. I couldn't ask for much more. I cannot believe this is my job. I don't deserve it, but I love it, and I'm enjoying being able to meet so many other people who seem to be involved and just love doing it. Because it's one big ride, and luckily we're all in it together.
Absolutely.
So I feel that we're going to keep this rolling for a long time. There's obviously a lot of other people I want to cook for, a lot of other places that I want to cook. My father lived in Aspen, Colorado for 2 years, so I would love an opportunity to do a barbecue event in the town of Aspen at some point. I think that'd be spectacular.
That'd be special.
Some collaborations with some amazing chefs and entertainers out there who, again, I've grown to love and admire, that I will get to be a part of. It's a lot of fun ahead. There's just no definite answer as to where it goes.
Yeah.
What would my end game be if I could bring this event, with a few concert artists that are some good friends of mine, if we could bring this to life at somewhere like Bank of America Stadium. And I've had some great talks with some people who work for David Tepper, and just amazing friends have really grown close with, who are really going to bat for me, and they want this to happen. But we have a dream of possibly bringing this to an NFL stadium, and if it happens, I hope everyone gets to be there, because this is it'll be the most electric barbecue event known to man.
When it happens, I believe it'll happen, man. I really do. Thank you. One more question for you, man. This has been a great show. We talked a little bit about beforehand, just your desire to want to give back and to help this younger generation. You've learned so many lessons. You've worked so hard. You put yourself in a position of success, and obviously you're still paving your way and growing and impacting lives in this current season of your life. But what is a lesson that you could share with us of something maybe you learned along your journey that you think was such a powerful lesson that you would love to just give to others?
Well, if I could tell them one thing, it's that they really are going to have to work hard. I mean, and I'm not just saying that, like, they got to put in effort like they haven't done before, because, renewals aren't happening really anymore. People are very careful on who they sign and who they want to work with. And I just want the younger generation to understand that it's not about them. There are some very talented people, but if they can let the corporations do their thing that have built them up for a long time, and they do the work, it's going to get them so far and get them so many more opportunities. And just be nice. And just being nice to people, it just goes a long way. And it doesn't cost people anything. But they got to have drive, and they got to have a certain direction that is new, that people will want to be a part of and they'll want to support. So if the generation stays focused on what really matters, and TikTok doesn't work for everyone, kids. I'm sorry.
That's right.
But if they can find their niche, something they're good at, yeah, anything's possible. I didn't know this was going to be my career at my age.
Wow.
But it's pretty special.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because it's one thing to say that as a young person, but to say that in your seat and obviously you're still a very young person. You look 20.
You're a first-class man, Doug.
First-class man. But you have a body of work to make that statement upon. And so you're not just saying that out of thin air. You're saying, no, anything is possible. Look what I've been able to do through the hard work, through the time, the consistency. And obviously, I'm sure, in another episode, we can talk more about different stories or maybe hardships, but I'm sure it wasn't a clear path to the top, but it's been really cool to see you be able to make that statement off the body of work that you put in.
No, it's been a very long road, and it has for all of us in many ways. I can understand that. And no one wants sympathy or anything like that. I'm not looking for that, but it has been a very long road up to this point. Very tough, turbulent times that we all go through, and then rising above it, standing up, waiting. If we got to get punched again, we'll take it, but we'll get right back up. If you can keep that mindset, you're going to find ways to win in life. But it's no cakewalk. Life can be brutal. Just be ready to fight back. And if you come out on top, then you'll be a very happy individual, and what you did will be worth something.
Wow. Well, that is a way to wrap it up. Jack, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast, and thank you for all your hospitality and feeding us the best burger I've ever had in my life. So that's a new story I get to tell. But thank you so much, man. This has been a pleasure. I'm very grateful for you.
It's my privilege, brother. Thank you, man.
Let's go. My man.